Today's AskReddit post. What is the strangest mystery that is still unsolved? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. An unknown group of people broke into an FBI building, and no one has found out who they are. But the best part of the story is, they did it by leaving a sticky note that said "Do not lock the door tonight," and it worked. Edit. To everyone asking how they left the note, they just stuck the note to the front door. Probably should have specified. Edit 2. I'm an approved member of our What's the Rule now. Edit 3. I know it's been solved. I heard about it 8 years ago and never learned that it was solved. Imagine being the guy who left it unlocked. Who was Perseus? From 1943 to 1946, the Soviet Union had a higher-level spy in the Manhattan Project, codenamed Perseus. This spy was a scientist at the White Sands missile testing site in NM and the main research facilities in Los Alamos. Perseus saw pretty much the entire project start to finish, giving the Russians everything they needed to get to work on their own bomb. The fact that they were able to do so within 4 years of the end of World War II when their nations were still devastated is proof positive that Perseus helped a great deal. And to top it all off, Perseus was never caught or positively identified. That we know of. I don't think the US government would be keen to share the name of the person that sold out all their advancements to Russia. That's right. It could be embarrassing. Or the US could have assassinated him. Or the US could have turned him and work as a double agent. There are lots of different but valid reasons why officials may not release Perseus's identity. Not to mention that this was decades ago and the very people who organized whatever happened may have destroyed enough records to cover this up permanently. There's a chance that despite US officials knowing who Perseus was back then, they may have covered it up so well that US officials today don't know who Perseus was. It's all very fascinating. There's also the chance that US officials simply never found out because Perseus was such a damn pro. The whereabouts of the last Gestapo chief Heinrich Müller. The last verified sighting of him was in Berlin roughly 3 days before it fell. He had stated he knew full well what the Russians did to prisoners and he had no intentions of being captured. As chief of the Gestapo, he more than likely had access to foreign documents as well as ways to replicate them. Both the CIA and the KGB spent time looking for him, but no trace has ever been found. South America. Probably. That was the Nazi failsafe. Disappear and blend into the country. They think they found a chain of forts in Venezuela used by Nazi officials. Edit. Gang. I may have been thinking Argentina. Either way, I heard about this on a History Channel special. Hunting Hitler or something like that. As far as I know, it's somewhat speculative, but a possibility. Fun fact. That's where many Confederates went after losing the war. Fled to Brazil where they had their own town. And the town is called Americana, which is the feminine form of the word American in Portuguese. Edit. A letter. TBH. I might have suspected some connection even without the linguistic heads up. Asher degree. Girl leaves her house in the middle of the night during a storm and disappeared. The only problem is that she was terrified of thunder and lightning and had no motive for leaving because her home life was fine. Then her clothes and backpack were found a year later in an abandoned construction site. Is this the girl wearing all white that they think is buried in a parking lot? No. She ran away during the early hours of the morning during a massive storm. She was spotted on the side of the highway but ran into the woods when anyone stopped. She had apparently packed a bag with some clothes and books which was found buried miles away from her home. She seems to have spent some time in an old shed, evidenced by candy wrappers. Fascinating case and one that keeps me up at night. Why would drive a little girl to take off from a loving home into the night and the wind and rain in February? Was she meeting someone? Was she groomed? Unfortunately, the case did not generate much popular interest at the time. This case is so strange to me. Did you see the photo of the little girl they released that was found with the candy wrappers? They think she had it in her backpack but don't know why. So many strange details to that case. Never heard of this. Nice try, Netflix. You have to find interesting and solved mysteries yourself. Nah man, we're an agency. I bet you can't guess which one. Also clear your search history. The suicide of Ellen Greenberg. 27 stab wounds in different areas of the body. Honestly, that's unreal. I'm glad the parents fought it. Looks like the case is going to trial next year. I hope the medical examiner doesn't die of suicide before he has to testify why he changed the cause of death at the insistence of the police department. Slam 28 stab wounds. You didn't want to give him a chance, huh? He was bleeding, begging you for mercy, but you stabbed him again, and again, and again. Which of the 3 astronauts aboard Apollo 10 was responsible for the floating turd? Who pooped the bunk? I think I read somewhere that it turned out to be a chocolate bar. I'll try to find it. Edit. Cannot find it. It very well may have been just a comment someone made that was never backed up. I can't say the choco bar is accurate, as the transcripts agree that it was a turd. Alas. Waste management in space is a pain in the ass. That one time when the PM of Australia went to the beach, it even coined the term do the Herald halt when you leave suddenly or without letting anyone know. Australian version of going to get some milk, or the American version of my dad going to get cigarettes, when your dad Herald halts your family. The Overtoun Bridge. It's a bridge in Scotland where dogs always unexplainably jump off. It's very strange and nobody knows why they do this. Dogs who survived reportedly walked back up and jumped off again. They even had to put up a warning sign to keep your dog on a leash and to watch them. A dog psychologist says maybe it's because of certain scents or animals down below, but most people have disagreed this theory. It's duck and weird. I remember that a new theory, which is supported by most experts, has something to do with the bridge's shape and resonant frequency creating sounds only audible to dogs. These sounds mess with the dog's perception and can drive them a bit mad. I feel like this might be easy to test by having owners walk their deaf dogs across the bridge and see if the dogs act differently, unless the frequency resonates within the body by touching the bridge and is not picked up in the ears. From there, the owner could set their deaf dog on a thick blanket on the bridge, or recording audio on the bridge and analyzing it, maybe recreating the audio in a test environment. That guy who ran away from the airport hopped the fence and was never seen again. The Bobbitts Void is a region of outer space that contains no galaxies or stars and we don't know why. According to Wikipedia, there are 60 known galaxies where there should be around 2,000. Not quite zero, but interesting either way. Those are the galaxies that 2,000 galaxies enter, 60 galaxies leave. Edit. A battle of galactic proportions. D. Oh god. Here I go on another 2-hour binge of reading every comment in the thread. It's 1 AM. I get scared reading these things and I can't stop. Help. The TamanShud case, also known as the mystery of the Somerton Man, is an unsolved case of an unidentified man found dead at 6:30 AM. The 1st of December 1948, on the Somerton Park beach, just south of Adelaide, South Australia. The case is named after the Persian phrase TamanShud, meaning ended or finished, which was printed on a scrap of paper found months later in the fob pocket of the man's trousers. The scrap had been torn from the final page of a copy of Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, authored by 12th century poet Omar Khayyam. Taman was misspelt as Taman in many early reports, and this error has often been repeated, leading to confusion about the name in the media. Deaf Cold War spy poop. No doubt, it was around the time of nuclear testing in South Australia. All the stuff they found on him and at the train station being untraceable, having no identification tags. The book was probably part a cipher. They may exhume him soon. The main dude at Adelaide Uni studying the case married into the family suspected of being associated with the man. It's a weird world. Testing was several years after he was found dead. But the spy theory involves a uranium mine and the Woomera testing range. Yes, the guy who they think is his son has the same genetic ear feature as the Somerton Man, doesn't he? And another genetic similarity as well. Although I can't remember what it was. Maybe something to do with his teeth. That guy also has DNA markers indicating an American lineage tracing back to Thomas Jefferson. It matches with quite a few people living on the east coast of the USA. How TF Jesus found people in the Middle East named Mark, Matthew, Luke, AD and John. I know this is a joke, but the names are just romanizations. Jesus' name was Isa. That's the Arabic version of the word. Jesus was from an Aramaic speaking family and should have been Yeshua, transliterated into Latin script, which is also the name from which Joshua is derived. Duck. Malaysian Flight 370. The Konka La Pass in Ladakh. This region lies in the disputed border of India and China, and is truly the most inaccessible places in the world. In 1962, the armies of both the countries were engaged in a severe conflict. After this, both China and India entered into an agreement according to which none will be allowed to patrol the region, but can keep an eye on it from a distance. After this, a popular belief floated that the Konka La Pass in Ladakh is a hideous base of UFOs. The area has forever remained a no man's land due to its territorial limits and is the reason why the UFOs have chosen it as their operational base. Reportedly, many have seen these UFOs and both the Indian and Chinese governments are aware of these developments. In 2006, Google Maps 2 baffled the world with some images that looked like military facilities. But till date the whole issue remains mysterious and unexplainable. I just did some googling and seems China is pulling troops out of there today. I looked on Google Earth and it seems super remote. Is it the mountains that make it so inaccessible? Oh god, they're pulling troops out to let the aliens come. 2020 is about to get worse. I feel like, at this point, aliens could only make 2020 better. Why people keep pouring money into a hole in the ground on Oak Island? If you ask me, the show is the treasure. They rake in that sweet advertising money while not actually doing much more than recap past events and share about 15 minutes of new content. The treasure is the friends we made along the way. In 1977 we received a radio signal from outer space that lasted about 72 seconds. To this day, we still do not know where it originated from. The wow signal. No. What's crazy is that the signal lasted 72 seconds because we only had the recording capabilities for 72 seconds. It went on longer. 72 seconds? Not great, not terrible. That's what she said. The 1987 Arkansas murders of Don Henry and Kevin Ives, and every single possible witness surrounding them, like Keith McCaskill, who claimed to be on the tracks that night. He talked to the special prosecutor about what he saw, then realized the prosecutor was dirty. After coming forth as a witness, he began saying goodbye to his loved ones and planned his own funeral arrangements. Shortly after, he was stabbed 113 times. That's like 113 too many. I myself am allergic to knives. Death of Rivera. Found dead in a meeting room in a hotel. Fell through the roof. The last call he received was from his office, but the company placed all employees under a gag order so no one can talk to police. Where the duck are all the 10mm sockets going into hiding? Possibly an underground city just for them. Some company should make a mechanics tool set that's just like a dozen 10mm sockets. Flight 19 of the 5th of December, 1945. 5-bomber craft on a routine training run became lost while heading back and eventually disappeared entirely. Audio has them saying that they thought they had ended up over the Florida Keys, but wind could not have allowed that. Even more interesting is the fact the rescue craft dispatched to locate them also disappeared. Why did they stop making the grooved Nerf Turbo football? Why Burger King didn't make the Smokehouse Cheddar Burger a permanent menu item? The cancer paradox. It's about creatures like elephants and blue whale and how they don't get cancer when they should be more prone to it. Edit. Holy thanks for 2k upvotes. If I recall correctly, elephants have extra copies of certain genes that create the cells that destroy mutated cells, which is why they don't get cancer. Why don't we just Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V some of those genes into us? No more cancer. Science. Who killed Jeffrey Epstein? We will be asking who killed Ghislaine Maxwell very soon too. She was just put on suicide watch. She was just put on suicide watch. If she has any kind of brain at all, she has multiple dead man switches set up. She commits suicide, and information dumps go out to multiple newspapers and media outlets. You say that like the folks in the media would run the story, faced with tears of joy. It's not like media executives weren't also flying on the Lolita Express, lifestyles of the rich and famous and all that. It's not like Epstein and Maxwell were just out there grooming young girls for themselves. There's certainly a cabal involved that was just drumming up material for future blackmail of the rich and powerful. How her snap score went up while she's been in the shower for the past 141 weeks. I think she's snapping pictures of the shower head demo. Elbert Johnson, the mad trapper of Rat River. A pretty cool mostly forgotten story about a man chased by the RCMP through the north. The identity of Jack the Ripper. Yeah, there are so many questions and theories surrounding this one. It would be neat to know once and for all who it was. A 8-year-old kid says he was killed with an axe. The kid brought them to the exact location and after some digging they found an axe and remains. The kid tell the police who killed him and after interrogation he admits to killing someone. No one knows how the kid knew all this. Source: What happened to D.B. Cooper? My favorite theory is that D.B. Cooper re-emerged decades later as Tommy Wiseau. New headcanon explains how he had that seemingly endless supply of money and no one really knows anything about him. We still have no definitive proof of who this Socrates guy is. On one hand, he's mentioned constantly by philosophers from his time, often used as an example character, and several works are attributed to his name. On the other hand, we have countless legal records and censuses that confirm the existence of Aristotle and Plato but none that link back to Socrates. He's either a very prolific philosopher, or an in-joke that classical philosophers would reference when they didn't know who to attribute quotes to. We do know he was blackballed by the government to kill himself. Wouldn't that be enough to suggest that they got rid of those legal documents? This is the likely answer. He pissed off the government of the day, and they tried to erase him. It has been known to happen to other figures in history. People we only vaguely know about now because the government forgot a few pieces of evidence of their life. I'm sure there are more we will never know because the government was successful. Who is Cartier? What is Obama's last name? It's Care. Done. The Lady of the Dunes. No one knows who she is. It's a pretty crazy story. Stephen King's son Joe Hill made a theory that she was an extra in the movie Jaws since a woman in the background of the movie looks very similar to her and can be seen in the same clothes the Lady of the Dunes. It makes a lot of sense but doesn't really explain who killed her or anything. The Soldering Children FFS. I think it was the insurance salesman that had tried to sell them stuff right before the fire. He apparently threatened them that their house would go up in smoke or something to that effect. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.